Yeah, welcome back to my class again this season. Now, this is the beginning of season 4. Now, in the concluding part of my season 3, I gave you an analogy between science and religion. And I told you that science and religion are just two sides of the same coin, right? There is no conflict between them. So we are just going to continue along that path. Now, my coding has been on the event in the Garden of Eden. I'll still continue with that. But before I get to that part of showing you what actually happened for them to leave the garden, I need to introduce you to some things in this class. So what we want to do in this class is what? Python errors, right? That's what we want to look at. Now, why will you put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden if you don't want them to eat the fruit? So was there a plan B? Should they eat the fruit? Right? We are going to look at that. Now, looking at this class today, what we want to do now is Python errors. Now, what are the various errors? Now, in every language, right, we have rules that we have to follow. So, in this now, there are three types of errors. We have syntax error. The second one is we have what? Logical error. Right? And the third one is what? We have runtime error. Right? But in this class today, all we are going to deal with is what? Syntax error. So without wasting much time, let me show you this part. All right, so syntax error. Now, I'm going to write a function. I'm going to define a function. And based on that function, we will find out this syntax error. So I'll say def, right? And I'll call my function name viral math, right? Now, this function, I'm going to supply 1, 2, I'm going to supply 4 parameters to it, right? Now, inside this function, I will declare a variable result. So whatever I will get in my calculation, I will store it here. So I will say A divided by B, C plus what? D. Now, this is my equation. Whatever I get, I return it. I will put it here. Then I'll say return result, right? So this is my function. My function is this. Now, looking at this now, I want to call this function. So in calling this function, I will say, and I want the output to be printed out on what? On the screen. So I will say print. I will call my print function. And then I will call this viral math. Then I will supply the values to it, which is what? 8, 2, 2, and 2, right? Now, looking at this, I'm calling this function. The moment I call this function, this 8 will be supplied to A. This 2 will be supplied to this B. This other 2 will be supplied to C, and this 2 will be supplied to D. So when I execute this, my program, what will be my output? I told you, syntax error is actually gotten at the point of passing, P-A-R-S-I-N-G, right? Now, the interpreter, Python will have to pass this function, this script. And how does it do that? First, it will have to identify all the tokens that are here. Define viral math, then the first parentheses, a, comma, like that. It will identify them. Now, when it gets to a particular place, something probably is missing in this code. So I'm going to ask you, if I execute this program, what will be the output? So tell me in the comment section. I will give you a few minutes to decide that. Okay. Now, looking at this program, what will it give me as my output? It will give me what? Syntax error. It will give me syntax error. Right? This program will not run. Why? Because at the passing stage, before it will execute, it will discover that something is missing, and it will tell you that in this particular line, I'm expecting something, but I did not see it, which is what? Colon. That was missing initially. So because of that, it will give me what? Syntax error. So if this is not there, the program will throw syntax error. The program will not execute. But by putting this here, because it has told me, it will display on the screen that I'm expecting this colon. So the moment I put this colon, it will go in and execute this program, right? And then it will return the result back to this calling function, and it will display it on the screen. So now, what do you think will be the answer to this mathematics? I also want you to write it in the comment section. You have resolved the syntax error. Now, what will be the output of this? If you got 16, then you will have to tell me how you achieve this when you execute this program. But let's go to PyCharm and execute this function and see what it will give to us. First, I will make you see the syntax error, and then I will correct the error and see if it's going to give us this as our output. Let's go to the PyCharm. This is our PyCharm. Let's go ahead and create our first error program. So I click on this and I click on new file. So here I am going to just put my syntax error.py, right? Okay, so my syntax error.py. Now I'm just going to define my function, def, right? And I will say viral math, and then I will supply A, B, C, and D to it. And then I will have this. So I'll create a variable result, and I will supply A divided by B multiply by, then I put my C plus D. All right, then I say return result. So I'll return result to the calling function. So my function is created. Now I'm going to call this function. So I will say, and I'll print it out. Print. So it's already there. So print var math. Then I'm going to supply values for the 4 parameters. So 8, 2, 2, 2. Now, for syntax, now I'm going to remove that, right? You can see now in this IDE, Integrated Development Environment, which is what? The PyCharm, it's already telling me, when you see this sign here, this red sign, it's already telling me there is an error in this script, right? So if I execute it now, it's going to throw me syntax error. Now I'm just going to execute it. So can you see syntax error? And it's telling me that I'm expecting a colon, and it's pointing at the colon. It's pointing at the place where I'm expecting the colon. So this is why IDE of this type is very, very good, because it will even help you to identify where the error is likely going to be, because while you are writing your code, it's seeing it. So it's already telling me, and that's why it's telling me syntax error. So it means it's expecting a colon here. So when I put the colon, now you see everything is fine. Now when I execute it, it's going to give me my output. So I'm going to execute this again. See, it's telling me it's actually a float. It's giving me a float. So if I want it to give me, bring it out as integer, all I need to do is pass this to my int function. So if I pass this to my int function, like this, it's going to give me as integer, which is what? 16, not 16.0. So if I execute this program again now, it's going to give me 16, right? So all I did was I just took that output, pass it to my int function before I store it in the result, and then it will return it back to this print function. It will print it out on the screen. So giving me what? 16. So without this, if I remove this, it will give me syntax error. See, syntax error. So that is just what I want to demonstrate for you to see in this program. So I correct it, and then I execute my program. So that is it. That is how you detect it. All right? So till we see in the next class. Bye-bye.